Alright, so we have our little trailer here. It's starting to look pretty good. I went ahead and just added a couple of primitives in there, just simple primitives, but I want to show you a couple more little tricks to flesh this out and further add details. So we have here if I look in a little bit closer at the front here, we've got a couple of paths that I created already, and then a little link. I'm going to add some chains there, and it would be a pain in the rear to go and just model every single link, try to put it into place. So we have a link, a couple of paths, and we're going to use this thing called Tools, Spacing Tool. And so what this allows you to do is to apply a primitive to either points or a path. We're going to use a path in this case, or excuse me, an object, and we're going to use a path in this case. So I'm going to say pick path, and I'm going to pick one of these. So it's placed a couple of links along there. Not quite what we want, but what we can do is we can adjust this live. So you get instant feedback of what it looks like. So you say, well, 12, 11, 12, how many is going to be right? It's still not quite right, because in the case of a chain, we need it to follow. Okay, so then we can start increasing this count until it gets to be the right number. And then we apply and close, and then what we would go ahead and do is look in our select from scene dialog box. I can go ahead and pick torus, and what I'll do is I'll pick every other one. So like so, however many we've got, just a few. Okay, I'm going to pick every other one, and then I'm going to rotate it. Now if I rotate them just with the default settings here, I'm going to get the whole thing rotating. That's because 3D Studio by default is going to rotate from sort of the collective centers, right? We looked at this a little bit before, but what we're going to do now is predict practical use, and I'm going to need to change this, and I'm going to need to change this. So here we use selection center. That's the thing that tells it, well, rotate from the entire selection of all objects. Drop this down and you have a few other options. You can rotate from a transform coordinate, or you can rotate, as we're going to do in this case, from each individual object center, so their pivot point. So I'm going to pick that and then hit rotate, and it's still not quite right because they're rotating them all in X here, but it's X according to the view, or actually, excuse me, Z, but it's Z according to the view plane. So you can see I'm grabbing the blue handle, rotate handle here, and it's rotating. These ones might be okay, but it's also rotating the very top ones just around the world coordinate, or the view coordinate in this case. So I need to change this as well. This I'm going to change to local. And I change that to local, and then figure out which handle I'm going to rotate around, not local Z, not local Y. It's going to be local X. Now I rotate around local X, I can rotate each one of those by about 90 degrees. Now I've got a nice chain all linked together. And I'm going to take all of those and I'm going to group, and then I'm going to call this chain 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and I want another one of these. I want 2, so I'm not going to just simply clone this or anything, because if I scale this up to match that, it's going to scale the links too. So the best way to approach this is to actually create another one, because this one should probably have more links. Would be a longer chain. You can also use a spacing tool to do something like rivets for this. You know, maybe this is diamond plate or something that's stuck on here. So what I can do, I can look at that, zoom into that a little bit more here. And then I'll come over and I'm going to create a line. Okay, I'm going to create a spline line. So I'll hit line. I'm going to enable auto grid. That allows me to draw right on objects. So we had seen auto grid before. So I can draw right on that object there. So you see it's drawn right on. Essentially made a path. I come over here to standard primitives. I'm going to make a sphere, make one down here. Okay, it's fine. I will be able to scale that down right now. I'm also going to take the number of segments down, and then I'm going to use this thing called hemisphere. So tons of parameters in each primitive. If I make a hemisphere of 0.5, it's going to give me just a half a sphere. Perfect for a rivet, so I'm going to take that thing, and then I'm going to go over to Tool, Spacing Tool again, pick Path, and pick that last line that we just drew on there. Count seems okay. I'll maybe take it down a few notches there. And then if I go if I create it as an instance, then hit apply and then close this. Now whatever changes I make to that original sphere, so if the rivet was, in this case it was too big, I need to take the radius down just a little bit. I can do that really easily to all of them, and I don't have to scale things with certain settings or whatever. I just decrease the radius, and if I add a detail to that rivet or whatever, if I do any number of things to it, or take the number of segments down, like maybe they're far enough away that I don't really need, or they're small enough rather that I don't really need that many segments for these things, so I could take it down to 12 here and not create too much geometry in tiny little spots where I don't even really need it.